for your helpful testimony. We'll now move to questions. Dr. Hazlett, I want to start with you. What are the specific economic benefits that putting more spectrum into the commercial marketplace would produce, and how would my spectrum pipeline legislation, which requires some full power spectrum to be made available to the commercial sector, benefit everyday Americans and American businesses?
So additional spectrum...
Can you turn your microphone on?
Additional spectrum, particularly of the flexible use variety, has been found extremely important to increasing American productivity. It allows more things to be done with wireless applications and wireless networks. And in fact, the reverse is also true. When we've had these delays that have come into the system, we have actually taken the vital inputs out of the sector, and the progress has been stymied. So in fact, getting more spectrum into the marketplace, allowing entrepreneurs and competitors to get access to expand, that explains not only the wireless revolution that we've seen with so much changing in terms of new innovations, but it explains why going forward we have to keep our eye on the ball and make sure that there is a pipeline, there is spectrum pouring into the market to be used in efficient ways, not in the old locked-in, rigid definitions of old.
Thank you. Mr. Pearl, would you agree that making more spectrum available to the private sector would result in billions in new investment and thousands of new jobs?
Yes, absolutely.
And history demonstrates that.
Yeah, no, consistently you make the spectrum available, and particularly, as I mentioned with the example of the app economy, being first really matters in that, because then you have innovators that take advantage of the capabilities that they can use in that spectrum.
And does my pipeline bill preclude the Department of Defense from accessing the spectrum it needs to accomplish critical missions, or are there ways full power commercial license use can accommodate the needs of DoD?
So your bill allows for both the possibility of exclusive use as well as shared use. And so in terms of DoD being able to continue to use some or most of the bands in order to maintain their capabilities, it absolutely creates that opening.
Now, Mr. Pearl, we've also heard concerns that reinstating auction authority could hinder President Trump's initiative to create an American Iron Dome. I am a strong and passionate supporter of missile defense and have been advocating for an American Iron Dome for some time. Based on your experience at both the National Security Council and in the FCC auction room, do you believe those concerns are well-founded, that having an auction would prevent missile defense here at home?
No, absolutely not. As long as we have the proper interagency process and we make sure that the engineers work together, we can absolutely ensure we have Iron Dome as well as increased commercial use.
And could an Iron Dome system coexist with commercial 5G use subject to geographical or location carve-outs like in the Ambit process?
Potentially it could. We do have some cases of countries that are using Iron Dome, like the Czech Republic, that are using it quite close to 5G, quite close to those systems of Iron Dome, and so that's one possibility. And there are some other ways that you could design Iron Dome so that you could have potential coexistence.
So we're told by some in the Defense Department that if any of the vast spectrum that they currently have use of goes to the private sector, that it will cripple the military's ability to defend our nation. The facts make that claim highly dubious. Right now today, about 50 nations across the globe operate commercial licensed 5G networks in the 3.3 to 3.45 gigahertz band. To take an example close to home, Mexico's 5G networks operate on frequencies between 3.35 and 3.45 gigahertz. At full power, less than 30 miles away from Fort Bliss in Texas, where the U.S. operates ground-based radar systems in the lower third band. Likewise, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and the Philippines also have 5G networks that operate between the 3.3 and the 3.45 gigahertz band. Now, given the fact that on much of the rest of the world there are commercial commercial players operating in those bands? Is it credible that our military cannot operate in the Pacific and we cannot operate if the commercial sector is operating in those bands?
As long as the process is done responsibly, absolutely not. It will not cripple the military.
Let me ask you finally, what would the consequences to national security be if China wins the race for 5G and 6G, and if the global telecommunication network is Huawei and Chinese-based? Is that good or bad for national security? And if bad, how bad?
It's catastrophic for national security as well as both DoD and the intelligence community because we will not have access to advanced, trusted, secure technology. It's true that the U.S. will still ban Huawei, but the rest of the world will use Huawei. It will become more advanced. And it's not only telecommunications networks, which are obviously very important, but the plan the PRC has with Huawei is to leverage its control over telecom up the technology stack to be able to control other technologies. So I would say it's absolutely catastrophic risk.
Well, and soldiers use cell phones.
Yes, and absolutely, and that's something that we've discovered in Ukraine is that a lot of these mobile technologies can be incredibly valuable. They've been used to triangulate drone attacks. They've been used to create accurate geographic maps of the combat zones. And so we're already seeing how these cell phones are and mobile technology is critical.
Ranking Member Cantwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, thanks for this hearing. I actually